In most of the buildings that I worked at, there was always like a pasture or a field in the back, and I would just stare off into that pasture. And the more I would do that day to day, the more I was like, man, I would love to just like run out into that field as fast as I can and just not look back. My name is Nathan Singh, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's kind of what led me to this path of entrepreneurship, the looking out around me and seeing that there was a lot of possibility outside of the rigid structure of a corporate environment. My upbringing was in a small town called Beaumont, Texas. My mom and dad both immigrated from India in the 70s, and my dad worked a lot of odd jobs, and then my mom worked in the post office and retired after nearly 40 years. When you have parents that work in a government atmosphere, stuff like that, there's a sense of security that's always been there. And so that's what I did, is go out to college and learn a trade, and in my case was computer science. Once I got my degree, I started doing what all kids do, which is look for jobs and just put in resumes wherever you can. I was finally able to get a job working for the DoD, doing air-to-ground audio for aircrafts. For me, it was like almost like a dream job. After that, I got an offer to go to Boeing space operations and basically work for NASA. And I did that for about 10 years. It was a cool gig by all accounts, but as I worked that gig, and I was like, man, this is a great way to earn a living and do something really cool. But within a couple years, I started to realize, I was like, man, there's a lot of ceilings here that you're just gonna hit competing with people that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind or pictured for myself. I was like, what are other people doing? I mean, like, how does one afford a Ferrari? How does one afford, these really expensive sports cars? And how does one get a mansion? And how does one, and all these different questions that a 21 or 22-year-old who listens to a lot of hip hop would be thinking is like, how do you live like that?
Yeah.
And so I started really looking out and seeing what were other folks doing for their financial independence and their freedom. And what I saw is people that gain financial freedom rarely do so working the regular 9-to-5 grind. I started seeing that there was this opportunity to own your own business and kind of work for yourself and maybe even be a job provider. During this time, I ran across a guy that was selling an online business. It was actually an app, and very rudimentary, just getting started, but he had an idea, he put it together, and he was like, hey, this seems to be making money, I'm looking to sell it. Didn't know what it should sell for, had no idea what a valuation was, nor did I. And so that was kind of my first foray into the business world. It was apparent to me in the first month, I was like, I have something here. And even while I'm at work, I'm still able to maintain this entity, this asset, this thing that lives and grows. And I was more excited about my business than I was going to work every day. I was like, man, this is really cool. I'm adding value to these people's lives. I've got something that makes money, and not enough to leave my current 9-to-5, but it was something. I see people that run brick and mortar companies, coffee shops, delis, restaurants that work their butt off doing insane amounts of hours for, in some aspects, less than I was doing part-time as I worked a full-time job. And so I was like, I've really got something there. And that's when I started looking online and started realizing this was nearly 4 or 5 years later. I mean, it would really be good to rinse and repeat, but do it on a larger scale. And it made sense at that point to look out and see like, hey, I bought this from someone, there's gotta be people that are willing to buy it from me. And it's probably worth several times more than it was when I bought it. I started doing some Googling and searched out a broker and found out there was a broker that had done this sort of thing before. And so that was really cool to get someone that already had the process in place. They had a whole bunch of qualified buyers. So that's the first time that I was like, wow, when you have brokers like Quiet Light that are like, we've seen this before, here's the multiple that this sort of business goes for based upon how long you've had it, and this is what we believe we can get. The great thing is I'd set up a SaaS business and I brought it to Mark. And Mark looked at it and was like, this is great. It's a SaaS business. Those are high in demand. Joe got involved as well, and he really took the listing to the next level. So with that business, I was able to get a great sales price. And as soon as we sold, I was like, Joe, I need help again. I'm looking to buy, brother, like now. The real challenge became finding the second one. The first one was challenging in itself. The second one was challenging in the sense of, now I got to go big, and now I've got a certain amount of money I can work with, but will I be able to do it again? And we went to work. A short time after, I ended up buying a business, and this time I was able to do it with an SBA loan. The great thing is Quiet Light had some folks they were familiar with, and it made the process a lot quicker. So we were able to streamline. I think we hit somewhere around 35 days. All this really happened through a culmination of events, from having that desire to be an entrepreneur to having a great team in Joe and Mark at Quiet Light. So for entrepreneurs that are looking to either sell, I think this is getting more and more interesting as an asset class, and just for buyers in general because of the margins that these businesses have. And some of that is you interviewing not only the buyer, but also making sure that you have a good broker that can match you up with the right buyer. Because a good broker should be able to tell if they have a decent match with a buyer in a business. Life after, becoming a full-time entrepreneur is good. There's actually a lot more peace that gets put into your life. I think that's the biggest part, being able to have that peace, being able to do those little things that you like to do. For me personally, it's very empowering to have this independence. There's always a void when you know you could have done something, you wanted to do something, you didn't get a chance. I know many people to this day still very well that are like, I could have done this, or I could have done that, or I wanted to do this, and it's good to say, like, you know what, I wanted to do something, I went for it, and the story's still being written. Can't say how it's gonna end, but hey man, I can at least go to the deathbed knowing I got to do what I wanted to do the Frank Sinatra way, and that's my way, and it's awesome. I'm looking forward to the next 15 years.
Yeah.